She thought no one could recognize her from behind. But one photo exposed everything. Subscribe before you get caught from your blind side. Angela was the kind of woman who smiled with her eyes. 38. Quiet but warm, the kind of presence that softened a room without saying a word. She taught second grade at a public school in Brooklyn, years of glitter glue, misspelled thank you cards, and playground tears had etched a gentle patience into her. At home, she was a mother to 2 boys, ages 7 and 10. Her house was clean, her meals were home-cooked, and her life, from the outside, looked like a checklist of suburban peace. But checklists don't speak, and neither, much anymore, did her husband. Daniel was 40, a civil engineer who worked long hours, longer contracts, and occasionally, longer lies, though Angela never had proof of the last one. He wasn't cruel, wasn't loud, just absent, in presence, in attention, in touch. There had been no major fights in years, no slamming doors, no ultimatums, but also no long hugs, no random kisses, no shared jokes over dinner. The silence wasn't painful, it was just permanent, like wallpaper that had always been there. Angela had once told her sister, half laughing, that their marriage felt like 2 polite strangers co-signing a mortgage. Sometimes she missed him, sometimes she missed missing him. The loneliness wasn't loud, it was subtle, it came in moments, when she poured 2 cups of coffee but only drank 1. When she told a story at dinner and no one asked a follow-up question. When she bought new perfume and he didn't notice. Then the leak happened. It was a small thing, a steady drip under the kitchen sink. She could have called the usual company Daniel used. But she didn't. She searched online, found a new name, local, independent, booked the appointment. Miguel showed up the next afternoon. Early 30s, sun-browned skin, dark curls under a navy cap, and a smile that didn't push, but welcomed. He introduced himself with a handshake that was firm but not performative. His eyes met hers, not briefly, not too long, just enough. He crouched under the sink, toolkit beside him. Angela stood nearby, pretending to check her phone, pretending not to glance too often. "You're lucky," he said after a few minutes. "Pipe's old but didn't burst. Just a loose joint. Easy fix." "Good to know," she replied. "We're all just trying to hold our joints together these days." He laughed, the real kind. Angela smiled before she realized she had. When he finished, she offered him coffee. "Most clients just want the leak gone," he said, gently wiping his hands. "Most clients aren't home alone all day," she replied. They sat at the small round kitchen table. He drank slowly. She noticed how his hands cupped the mug, how his eyes scanned the room, not judging, just observing. They talked about Brooklyn, about housing prices, about how second graders never ran out of questions, about how plumbing, weirdly, gave him a kind of peace. When he stood to leave, she followed him to the door, a bit too slowly. He turned. "Thanks for the coffee." She nodded. "Thanks for the fix." Their hands brushed when he passed her the invoice. Her fingers lingered half a second longer than necessary. When the door closed, Angela stood behind it, eyes shut. She hadn't realized how light her chest had felt, like something heavy had lifted, not because of him, but because something inside her had flickered awake. She didn't tell anyone about Miguel, not that there was anything to tell, but she found herself remembering the shape of his smile when washing dishes, replaying his laugh while grading papers, imagining how his name would sound if she said it casually, like it belonged in her kitchen more than once. That night, Daniel called from Chicago. Work trip extended. Would be back Friday, maybe Saturday. Angela listened to the voicemail twice. Not because she missed him, but because she was trying to remember if his voice used to sound different. Saturday came. She made breakfast, checked her phone once too often. Daniel didn't call again. She opened her laptop, Googled Miguel's name again, not for scheduling, just to see. There was a company page. A photo, the same face, same eyes. She clicked on the contact form, but didn't type anything. Later that week, the bathroom sink made a strange noise. Nothing serious, but she called anyway. He arrived the next morning. This time, she didn't offer coffee. She made 2 cups and set them on the table without asking. He sat, she sat. There was less small talk. More silences. Not awkward, just charged. He asked if everything was okay at home. She said yes, then shook her head. He didn't press. They didn't touch. But when he left, she closed the door slower. Her fingers brushed the wood like it could still hold the heat of where he'd stood. Angela wasn't impulsive. She wasn't reckless. She didn't plan. She didn't fantasize. But the seed had been planted. Not by Miguel, not even by Daniel, by time, and silence, and all the invisible days where she'd forgotten what it felt like to be looked at. She sat by the kitchen window that evening, watching the streetlights flicker on. Her phone buzzed. A message from Miguel. "Let me know if the bathroom gives you trouble again." No emojis, no subtext, but she stared at the message for a long time. Then she smiled, and whispered his name. Just once. Just to hear how it felt. Angela and Miguel didn't plan anything. But it kept happening. The visits, the coffee, the conversations that hovered just on the edge of confessional. She'd text him only when something was broken. Or seemed broken. A loose handle, a strange rattle in the dishwasher, a toilet that flushed a little too slow. Nothing urgent, nothing dramatic, but enough for a reason. Miguel came. Always came, never asked for more, never pushed, but Angela knew what was there between them, in the way his fingers tapped nervously on his toolbox when she passed behind him. In the way he smiled just a second too long when she offered coffee. In the silence that lingered when they said goodbye. Her boys never noticed, too young, too distracted, and Daniel, he was gone more than ever. The affair, if that's what it was, had no name, no photos, no messages outside of plumbing talk, no physical proof, not yet, but they both knew, and that knowing became its own intimacy, a secret without being spoken. Until the photo came. It was early Wednesday morning. Miguel was driving between jobs when his phone buzzed. He glanced down at the unknown number. No message, just a single photo. It was grainy, shot from a distance, but unmistakable. Angela, walking beside him, her hand lightly touching his arm. They were just outside the small rental apartment she used sometimes during Daniel's long work trips. A place she said was for grading in peace, though no papers were ever graded there. Miguel pulled over, heart pounding. The angle of the photo, it was from behind, just far enough to obscure detail, but clear enough to identify. No faces, but posture doesn't lie. And Angela had a posture Miguel had memorized. He stared at it for a long time. Then called her. She didn't answer. He didn't call again. That evening, she came to the apartment. As planned, he showed her the photo without a word. Her hand trembled as she took the phone. No caption, no sender, just that image. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Who sent this?" Miguel shook his head. "No clue, just showed up." Angela backed away, sat down, covered her mouth. Someone had followed them. Someone new. Her thoughts raced. Was it Daniel? A neighbor? A stranger with nothing better to do? Or worse, someone trying to hurt her? Miguel watched her carefully. "You okay?" "No," she said. "No, I'm not." She didn't cry, but her eyes were glassy, unfocused, her breathing shallow. "I can't get caught," she whispered. "This will destroy everything." Miguel didn't reply. He just stood, walked to the window, pulled the blinds tight. Angela left soon after. No kiss, no goodbye, just a door closed quietly behind her. That night, she didn't sleep. Every sound felt like a camera click, every shadow a witness. She checked her phone again and again. No new messages, no second photo. But the damage was done. The fear had settled. And with it came guilt. A different kind. Not for the affair, but for how unprepared she'd been. For thinking she could live a double life in a world of smartphones and strangers. The next day, Daniel came home early. No warning, no call. Angela heard the key in the door while she was folding laundry. Her heart froze. He walked in with 2 suitcases and a tired smile. Conference wrapped early. Flights got bumped. Figured I'd surprise you. She forced a laugh. Well, you did. He kissed her cheek, said hello to the boys, unpacked like everything was normal. But Angela couldn't stop watching him. Was he watching her too? Was this a trap? Or worse, was this mercy? Was he giving her a chance to confess? At dinner, he was more talkative than usual. Asked about school, about the boys, about the neighbors. Nothing probing, just casual. Too casual. He even complimented her new blouse. She hadn't worn anything new in weeks. When the boys were asleep, she poured a glass of wine and sat with him in the living room. He scrolled on his phone. Relaxed, oblivious, or pretending. Angela watched his face in profile. Searched for clues. A twitch, a tension in the jaw. Nothing. Just her husband. Just the man she had drifted so far from she couldn't tell if he was lying, or simply indifferent. She thought about the photo again. Was it him who sent it? If so, why hadn't he said anything? The wine sat untouched in her hand. Daniel finally looked at her. Smiled. You okay? She nodded. Tired. He stood, kissed her forehead, and went upstairs. Angela remained on the couch long after. Miguel didn't text that night. Or the next. Silence stretched. But the fear didn't leave. If anything, it grew. Not just fear of being caught, but fear of the unknown. Because someone was watching, and they had chosen the perfect moment to say, I see you. Daniel's questions began with politeness, disguised as curiosity, delivered with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. So, where do you usually go when I'm away? Angela blinked. What do you mean? Just curious. He shrugged, spooning sugar into his coffee. You used to say grading papers. But now you don't mention much. She forced a laugh. Still grading, still drinking too much coffee while doing it. Daniel nodded, didn't press further, but his eyes lingered a second too long. Later that night, he stood in the garage, alone, reviewing the tiny camera he had just pulled from its packaging. It was the size of a marble, undetectable, with Wi-Fi streaming. He didn't want to do this. He had tried not to believe the voice in his head. But trust had become too quiet to hear. The next morning, while Angela took the kids to school, he placed the camera behind the bookshelf in the living room, angled just enough to see the kitchen, hallway, and front door, then another in the upstairs hallway near their bedroom. He didn't check them every day. He wasn't obsessed, not yet, but when he did, he watched silently, heart pounding, not knowing which outcome he feared more. In parallel, he reached out to a private investigator, gave only the basics, a name, Miguel, and a request, follow him. Log everything, no confrontation, just facts. Within days, the PI returned with details. Miguel's routine, his usual route, the odd detour every Thursday afternoon, 20 minutes missing from his schedule. Always parked near a rental apartment under Angela's maiden name. Daniel said nothing. Paid the invoice. One evening, he called Miguel's number, posing as a potential client. He used a fake accent, asked about services, then casually requested an appointment for Thursday. Sorry, Miguel said, I'm booked solid Thursdays. Daniel smiled without humor. That's okay, maybe next week. He ended the call. The tremor in his hand had nothing to do with rage. That night, he sat in his car, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel. He scrolled through his phone, opened a text, attached the photo, the same grainy back-view image. No words, no name. He hit send. Angela's phone lit up across the kitchen. She saw it, froze. Daniel watched from the hallway. Unseen, her face drained of color. Her hands trembled as she picked up the phone. Then stillness, as if time had stopped. She didn't call anyone. Didn't speak, just stood there. He walked in moments later, pretending nothing had changed. She looked at him, wide-eyed, uncertain. Everything okay? He asked gently. She nodded. Just, weird spam. Yeah, he replied. People send all kinds of stuff these days. That night, she didn't sleep, neither did he, but both pretended they did. The next day, she called Miguel. He answered with hesitation. Angela, hey, someone sent me the photo, she said, from a blocked number. He sighed. Me too, last week. You didn't tell me. I didn't want to panic you. There was silence. I think my husband knows, she whispered. Miguel paused. Maybe it's time to end this. Her breath caught. What? I didn't sign up for this, he said. I never meant to. This was supposed to be simple. Angela felt the floor shift beneath her. You said it wasn't just physical. It wasn't, he said quietly, but I have a life too. And just like that, something broke. She ended the call before her voice cracked. Later that evening, Daniel sat on the porch, sipping tea. Angela joined him, quiet, distant. He looked at her. Did you ever think about how much can be seen from behind? Angela didn't respond. Her throat tightened. He smiled, slow and knowing. Most people only worry about what's in front of them, but the truth always catches up, usually from the back. Her hand trembled on the armrest. He stood, kissed the top of her head. Going to bed. You should too. She stayed outside, watched the street, the silence. Miguel didn't text again. The affair had gone cold, but not clean, because Daniel hadn't confronted. He was building something, quietly, carefully. Angela knew this now, and for the first time, she realized something far worse than being caught had happened. She had been left exposed, alone, and the person who used to be indifferent was now paying very, very close attention. The invitation came out of nowhere. A dinner, at home, just them, the kids, and two close friends from down the street, Mark and Elise. Angela raised an eyebrow when Daniel suggested it. You've never been the let's entertain type. He smiled. Thought we could use a reset. You seemed tired lately. Maybe laughter helps. She nodded slowly, confused but relieved. Perhaps this was his way of reconnecting. Maybe, by some miracle, things were turning around. She cleaned the house twice, bought candles, set the table like it was Christmas Eve. Dinner began like any other. Wine poured, jokes shared. The kids ran around before being tucked upstairs with promises of dessert if they stayed quiet. Mark and Elise chatted about neighborhood gossip. Daniel, as always, was calm, attentive, too attentive. Angela noticed it in small ways. The way he watched her while she laughed. The way he offered to refill her glass, even though it wasn't empty. The way he complimented her dress. You wore that on our anniversary 3 years ago, he said. She blinked. I'm surprised you remember. I remember everything, he replied. When dessert was cleared, and Elise excused herself to check on the kids, Daniel stood, walked over to the TV. Thought we'd share something fun, he said. Angela tilted her head. What kind of fun? He clicked a remote. The TV lit up. Static. Then footage. A hallway. Familiar. Their hallway. Angela's breath caught. The camera showed her, walking into frame, arms around Miguel. A kiss. Not passionate, but intimate. Too intimate. Mark coughed. Elise returned and froze mid-step. The room went still. Angela dropped her wine glass. It shattered against the hardwood. Daniel didn't turn to her. He let the clip play for 5 more seconds. Then paused it, screen frozen on the moment Miguel brushed her hair back from her face. He turned to her, voice low, calm, devastating. That's you, right? Or do I need to check the back view again? She couldn't breathe. The silence felt like a scream. The children's footsteps above, a door closing, Elise whispering, we should go. Mark nodding, glasses being gathered in quiet shame. Angela stood frozen, eyes wide, face pale, her lips parted, but no words came out. Miguel wasn't answering his phone. She had called twice before dinner. No response. He had vanished. Daniel walked past her, set a white envelope on the table. She stared at it. Divorce papers, he said, along with the investigator's full report. You'll find receipts, photos, even timestamps. Daniel, her voice cracked. Please, let me explain. No need, he said. You were careful, but I had patience. Tears welled in her eyes. It wasn't love. I was lost. Not your first time being lost. he said. "Just your first time getting caught." The words weren't shouted, they were scalpel sharp. He looked at her one last time. "I'll be staying at a hotel. Lawyers will be in touch. The kids stay here, for now." He walked out without looking back. The door clicked closed like the final note of a requiem. Angela fell to her knees. The room was empty. Her tears came in waves. Not just guilt, but shock, humiliation, the realization that the control she thought she held had evaporated the moment someone looked deeper. The candles flickered in the draft of the door he had slammed shut on their marriage. Somewhere upstairs, her sons were laughing at a cartoon. And Angela, once composed, once admired, once wanted, sat on the kitchen floor, sobbing into her palms, with no one left on the other end of the line. The affair hadn't ended. It had been executed, cleanly, quietly, and completely. The divorce moved quickly. Daniel didn't fight, he didn't delay, he just showed up to every meeting, every mediation, with documents, with witnesses, with facts. Angela sat across from him in polished offices that smelled like silence and endings, trying not to unravel while the legal language of separation sliced through what once was called marriage. The judge's tone was neutral but firm, due to emotional instability demonstrated during proceedings and for the well-being of the children. Temporary custody will remain with the father. The mother may petition for review in 6 months. Angela didn't protest. She couldn't. Every time she opened her mouth, her voice cracked. Every attempt to justify became another self-inflicted wound. The footage, the photos, the reports, all admissible, all damning. No room for context, no space for sorrow. She moved into a one-bedroom apartment 3 neighborhoods away. Sparse, functional, cold in the way small places are when they've never been warmed by laughter or arguments or the clumsy mess of family. The boys came every other weekend, for short supervised visits. At first, they hugged her tight, then, cautiously. Eventually, they stopped asking why Daddy wasn't there too. Daniel, meanwhile, disappeared from her daily life entirely, changed his number, blocked her on every platform, moved into a new house near the school. He left no trace, no trail, just an absence so complete it echoed. Angela tried to rebuild. She kept teaching, smiled in the hallways, attended parent-teacher meetings for other people's children. She answered questions about reading levels and math anxiety while her own life spun quietly in the background. Unwitnessed. Then one afternoon, a colleague showed her a meme. This went viral last night. She laughed. So brutal, but kind of brilliant. Angela looked. It was a photo of a woman from behind, shoulders tense, dress slightly wrinkled, a still from the surveillance footage. Above it, the caption, "Even your back can betray you." She froze. The meme had spread fast. Thousands of shares, comment threads, parodies, TikToks. No one knew it was her. But she knew, and someone, Daniel, a friend, a stranger, had made sure the moment of her deepest shame became an eternal joke. Miguel was gone, moved out of the borough. His number disconnected. A mutual acquaintance said he left the state. No forwarding address, no goodbye. Angela never found out if he had betrayed her too, or just ran. In the evenings, she scrolled through old photos on her phone. Birthdays, beach trips, the blurry one of Daniel and the boys sleeping on the couch. The last Christmas photo where they all wore matching pajamas. And then the photo she hadn't deleted yet. Miguel's hand on hers, coffee cups in the background, taken from a low angle, like a secret. She stared at it too long, then pressed delete. Outside, the streetlights buzzed on. Her apartment remained dim. She poured a glass of water and sat on the floor, knees to her chest. A knock came once, from memory, not the door. She didn't get up. There was nowhere left to go. She wasn't angry anymore, not at Daniel, not at Miguel, just hollow. Sometimes betrayal isn't loud. Sometimes it's not a slap or a scream or a broken vase. Sometimes it's a look that lingers too long. A silence that knows too much. A camera, waiting. And sometimes, the worst part isn't getting caught. It's being seen too late. She thought she was invisible from behind. But that's where betrayal hits the hardest. They thought it was harmless. Just one moment, one fix, one secret they could bury under the sink. But in every story, the pipes burst. These weren't just affairs. They were emotional avalanches, quiet, slow, and inevitable. They happened behind locked doors, whispered through broken routines, and captured by eyes that weren't supposed to be watching. 10 women, 10 chances to walk away, 10 reasons they didn't, and in the end, none of them saw it coming. Not the cameras, not the children, not the consequences, because sometimes, the person you try to hide from the most is the one who already knows. Thank you for watching 10 True Affair Stories, Wives Who Cheated with the Plumber. If these stories made you feel something, anger, sadness, or maybe recognition, subscribe now, because betrayal doesn't always wear a villain's face. Sometimes, it wears a smile, and sometimes, it holds a wrench.